Hi there, I'm Editable from Simply Speaking SLT, and this is my tutorial for my editable board games. You see here my pizza themed set, however this applies for all editable board games in my store that have this tutorial linked in the document. Please note that this tutorial here is for teletherapists. However, you can find other tutorials within the document. Let's get started and I'll show you where. So if we hit this menu button from the front page, you can see here are the tutorials for the printable version, iPad users and Teletherapy users. And then if we click here, we go to this section where we can insert our targets. So first I'm going to show you inserting your targets, and then I'm going to show you how to play the games. So you simply type your targets in here on this page, and whatever you put on this page here, page 3, will auto-populate across the entire document. And these are all formatted to be able to be played no print using Teletherapy. So what you can do is share your screen with this open in Adobe Acrobat Reader. So you have to have this document opened in Adobe Acrobat Reader for it to work as I intended. Okay, so you will insert your targets here just by deleting this text here and typing it in. I'm going to go ahead and type in some targets for the S sound. However, you can write in longer questions or any type of words for synonyms, antonyms, objects you want students to compare and contrast, anything that it's really endless, your possibilities, so long as you keep your text on one line. So let me show you how long that is if we just keep typing. Okay, so this length here is generally the best for how this game is formatted. If you get much longer, the text is going to get very small. However, depending on the type of screen your students are using, that may not matter too much. So you can fit quite a long question in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in my targets and then bring you back. Okay, I've typed in my targets, and because we're using words here, I've chosen to use high frequency words. High frequency words are great for generalizing for your students and often can be hard to show in pictorial form with an icon or a graphic. So these games here are a great time to start targeting those high frequency words because we're using words instead of pictures. Okay, so now that I've typed these words in here, let's take a look at what's happened to this document. The document has now been filled with all of our targets. Okay, so now that we've added in our targets, go ahead and save this as the name of the target. So you might call it Pizza Game, S Sounds, or whatever you want to save it as, and somewhere you can find it. And you might then want to go ahead and add in some other targets that match what you're working on in therapy. You might have some WH questions, synonyms, antonyms, compare and contrast, any other types of targets, and save those as well as their own individual PDFs. But first, what we need to do before we can play these games, we need to print these to PDF. Now the reason we need to print these to PDF is because, see down here, these are all editable text boxes, and if we play on top of this, our game pieces are going to get lost behind the text boxes, and it's going to mess with our ability to play the game and also mess with our students because they'll probably accidentally tick inside these text boxes and could mess them up. So for us to play these games in Adobe, we need to do what I'm about to show you. Now, if your platform will work with PDFs and your platform has your own game pieces and dice, then go ahead and upload this PDF to your platform and see if it'll work. However, for the best results, what I'm going to do is print to PDF. So I'm going to go print, and I'm going to go not PDF Creator, I'm going to go Microsoft Print to PDF because I'm on a Windows computer. However, if you're using a Mac, please look up how to do that on your Mac computer. It should be a part of your software. And then I'm going to go make sure it's on landscape because this is a landscape document and that it's fit so that it'll all fit on the page. And I'm going to hit print, and then I'll come and show you what I've got. Okay, so this is the resulting document, and now we'll be able to play our games. So let me show you how to play the games in Adobe, and do be aware that you'll obviously have to share your screen if you're using Adobe to play these games. Now I'm going to split screen this with my dice. So this dice here is free in my store, and I will link to it down in the description of this video that you're watching on YouTube. And as you can see down the bottom here, we have a bunch of different number ranges here. So I just want to clarify, this is a free dice you can find in my store, my Teletherapy dice, and it opens in Excel. So if you don't have Microsoft Office 365, did you know that is free for educators? So if you have a school-based website, email, you'll be able to get Office 365 for free and have access to Excel. I will link to more about that below. Now, how I play this with my students is if I'm working on a board game like this, I choose just the 3 based number dice because I want us to move through slowly so that we get more trials. But when it's time for them to say their word, I have them roll the 15 part dice so that I can get more trials out of them. So let's go back to the 3. Okay, so we're going to need game pieces as well. So we're going to need to click this comment icon here and then get rid of this box by hitting this arrow. Now this toolbar has come up, and you may have a shapes area on this toolbar that's a drop down. I have all my shapes out like this because of the way I formatted the toolbar, and you want to insert a circle or a square based on what your students want to use as their game piece. We generally use the circle, and I'm going to add in a circle here, and then you can change the color and the opacity by going to these 3 dots here. You can change the color, and then I have the opacity down so that we can see our targets through the game pieces. And then I'm going to go Control C, Control V, copy and paste another game piece and change the color of that one to green, pop that down here. And now we're ready to play. We simply roll our dice. Okay, so you're noticing how I just rolled the dice and I still got a 1. This is because probability tells us that if there's only a number range of 1 to 3, sometimes we're going to roll the same number again. So just help your students understand that. So I rolled a 1s and I'm going to be the blue player. So I move to soar. I say soar how many times? Let's go to the 10 spinner for the sake of this tutorial. I say soar 5 times, and then it is now, sorry, not spinner, I meant dice. I also have number spinners. You can check them out in my store if you want them, but this dice is free. Okay, so, and then I'm going to roll the dice again, and I got a 2, and now this person moves to yourself, and they have to say yourself, oops, sorry, 4 times before they can move, and so on and so forth. So this is just a generic board game with a beginning and an end that you'll work your way through. This is an area that you land as well. The arrows help you know where to go. Okay, and then this one here works very similar. You'd play the exact same way, except you're working your way around a longer board, which is nice for your students that can handle a longer game. It means you're going to get in more trials. And for this game board, you might want to use the 6 dice, but I still use the 3 often, and work our way around. And for this theme, we're delivering pizza, but it'll differ depending on the theme of the game packet you've bought. And then this here is the bounce game. So you move around the outside with your counters using the dice, and over and over again you move around, and each player can choose where they start and decide whether you're going to go clockwise or anti-clockwise. And every time you bounce over a pizza, you get a point, or whatever it is the image is that is on your set of game pieces. So if I landed here, I would bounce over to this block here and get a point. Now we can keep track of our points in this text box here, this area here, and we need to decide first to how many points wins. So I'm going to hit this T here so that I can type in here, and I'm going to say the first to 5 points wins. And oops, my text is set to white, so let's change that to black so we can actually see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this up. So to move it up, I'm just going to click away, and then I can come back and grab this. Sorry, click away, come back and grab this and move it up. And then down here, I'm going to type in my points. So I'm going to choose this text box and draw a text box in here. And this is where we can keep track of our points. And I can write Brooke 1 if I get a point, and can list all of my students and their points. Now, if you've been able to upload the original PDF to your platform and you're using the editable version, these parts here, these text boxes will be editable already, and you won't have to add in the text boxes. Okay, and now onto the next page, we have tic-tac-toe, and how I like to play that with my students is just use the pen tool here, and we can go ahead and change the color if we want, and we can choose who's noughts and who's crosses, and then we just write in here like this, and then I might draw my circle, and so on and so forth. Or you could choose to play circles and squares and use shapes, or if you want to use stamps, you can play ticks and crosses. So if we go here to the stamps area and we go to dynamic and move, no, sorry, not dynamic sign here. There's a tick and cross stamps here you can use. So lots of different options for that one. Okay, the next page. This set here is made to be used with the dice over here, the 6 set dice. And if you go ahead and insert a circle that's roughly the size of this here and choose, so that's one color, so go ahead and copy paste a bunch of those and put them all in a pile somewhere on your document. You can always copy them if you need more. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste one more and make this one a different color. There's no reason why you can't do this during the session. It takes just a couple seconds. And move them all down over here. And how this works is if you roll the dice and take turns, you can race to see how many people can make it to the top pizza first. So I'm going to roll this dice and I got a 3, so I can put my circle on 3, and then I'm going to roll the 10 dice or the 15 and say my word 2 times or maybe 5 times or 1 or 6 or 5 and then go back to the 6 dice, and I'm going to have to say this word here because I'm on 2. I'm going to have to say grass, put that there, so on and so forth, and then we work our way up, and the idea being that we want to be the one that has our color on the last circle. So I would suggest you put the opacity down like I showed you before so that your students can see through and see their words, and you do that under the change color area just here, and you pull this back to make it see through. Okay, so for the next board, I'm just going to grab these 2 and copy them over to the next board because we'll use them here. And again, you would just make as many game pieces as there are people playing. Obviously, tic-tac-toe is a 2-player game, but if you have more players, you can go ahead and make more counters with different colors. Now, how this game works is you use these shapes here and the 6 dice, and you move along these rows backwards and forwards until you get on a square that has an arrow. If you have an arrow, you can move down. Now the first person to the end wins. So I'll just give you a demo. So I've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And because I landed on a square that has an arrow, I can move down. And then this player here would go and they would roll and they got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, so they can move down. However, if I'd got a 5 and I ended up over here, I can't move down and I have to go back this way, and if I rolled a 2, I'd be here. So then once I landed back over here, maybe if I rolled another 2, then I could move down. But you can't move down until you land on one of these squares. And if you are down the bottom here, this arrow gets you to win whether you land on this square or this square. And then you can say you won all the pizza, or whatever it is that theme of clip art is for the pack that you bought. Okay, so I made these to work like memory. So with this on another screen or before you start your session with your students, you can cover them up with a square. So I found the square here. Now, this side of the page has the same words as on this side of the page, and they match. So for example, so with the blue car matches so with the blue car here. So I'm going to copy these black squares, quite a few of them, and pop them on top of my cards. Or you could do this like a memory game, have the students remember as many as they can, then you cover it up and then have them tell you what's under each one. But this is going to be memory in the more traditional sense of finding pairs. Pop this over here, and then I'll do the same for the other side. Okay, and I'm just going to move this here, and then for gameplay, what you would do is your student would pick 2 squares. So maybe that one and this one, and we'll delete them and see if we found a pair, but we didn't. So I'm going to hit Control Z and it will undo the delete. And then find this one and this one they might choose. And sorry, I accidentally hit Control Z again and delete them. And then there we go. We can try and find our pair, but we didn't. And so on and so forth. And every time that they reveal a card, they can say their words by rolling a dice and seeing how many times they need to say their word. So that's how I would play that game. However, you may come up with some other creative ways to play that game. And then the rest of the document is the same games, they're just the printable versions for those of you who want to print. So I hope that you found this helpful. Do be in touch if you have any questions. If we go back up to this area here and we hit the terms of use page back in the original document, we go menu, terms of use, back in the original document. Here we have my terms of use, and you can find my contact information, whether you'd like to email me or interact with me on Facebook or Instagram, there, YouTube and Pinterest. Now, please do note that my terms of use are very clear. You are not able to share this document with anybody. If anybody else would like a copy of this, I would ask that you send them to my store where they can get their own copy. This especially applies, but not only to, but especially applies to if you work for a company where you share files. Please do not put this in your shared file. You have purchased and paid for one user license, and if you were to share this, you'd be breaking copyright, and it would be very unethical. So please do not do that. And on the last page, I've just given attribution to the clip artist whose clip art I've used within this document. So do reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of your day in speech, and remember, reduce the prep time and increase the fun.